My classroom will be a hive of activity. Everyone involved in the class, so teachers, parents and students alike, will all be encouraging of everybody else and themselves, and everyone will be really honest with each other and have a really high level of respect for everyone and themselves. Students are eager to express their opinions and offer answers to questions that are posed by myself to the class, whether or not they make a mistake. If they do make a mistake, that's fine, because that's how you learn things, and everyone makes mistakes, and so that's perfectly fine. We understand that no one is perfect, and everybody is expected to try their best at all times. Students are independent learners, and this is fostered by the teacher and also by the students. It's important to try something first before declaring that it's too hard, and kids are really encouraged to ask peers for help if they are stuck on something. Each student's talents are supported and utilised in the classroom wherever possible. Students feel at home in this classroom because they feel valued in all ways. Their feelings, opinions, stories, interests, their individual personalities, everything about them is valued and appreciated, and they're allowed to express that through the class. Student growth in all aspects is also nurtured and encouraged, and activities are often related back to real life situations where possible, because I really believe that it's important to prepare kids for the real world and their lives outside of the classroom. Students understand that fair doesn't always mean equal. The person sitting next to you's best work might not be the same as your best work, and that's okay. Everyone learns at different rates, we all learn in different ways, and something that's really easy for someone might be really hard for somebody else, and that's okay. Again, that's where the respect, perseverance and resilience comes in, and really where students, are encouraged to ask their peers for help if they're struggling with something. Students will also know that myself as the teacher and other teachers are not the font of all knowledge. We don't know everything, and that's fine too. And that's, I think is really important for the kids to know that teachers don't know everything. My stance, I guess, comes back to a real constructivist point of view, and a lot to do with Hinchy and things like that. I really think it's important that kids explore things themselves and make their own meaning of exercises that are going on in the classroom. So for Standard 2.3, Curriculum Assessment and Reporting, the graduate criteria for the standard states that as a graduate we are to be able to use curriculum, assessment and reporting knowledge to design learning sequences and lesson plans. So my example for this is the unit of work and assessment that I designed as a part of our ETP assignment last semester. So I designed a pre and post test and a unit of maths work around time for my grade 5-6 placement class. Obviously I used the Auswell's curriculum for this, right from grade 3 right through to year 8. The reason why I did grade 3 through to year 8 was so that the kids had a chance to sort of get their head back in the game in terms of time with things that they should already have a grasp of, but also to introduce them to the topics that they would be covering, the grade 5-6 areas that they would be covering in the unit, as well as having those more advanced options there for the kids who are more advanced academically, and giving them a bit of a challenge as well. So the curriculum standards that I've used, I know it's backwards, I'm really sorry about that, but that's the planner for the unit. And the standards were used as a starting point for the questions for the test, as well as obviously for the teaching points throughout the unit. So the pre-test that I gave the students was identical to the post-test. This is the first page. Again, sorry, it's backwards. So as you can see there, the first couple of questions involved drawing hands on a clock. Questions again then went into being able to read an analogue clock, things like 12 and 24-hour time, converting things from digital to analogue clocks, being able to calculate elapsed time, time zones, reading bus and train timetables and planning journeys and things like that. things that really got them thinking. So the reason why I put all of the curriculum standards into the test was to see if the kids could recall how to do what they should technically know from previous years. Again, the 5-6 standards were in there to kind of see if they could use the processes that they already know and develop those into giving answers for the 5-6 questions, and also seeing how they went with the more complex stuff, engaging which kids would have a real handle on that. This aligns with my philosophy in that differing the curriculum standards allowed the kids to be able to challenge themselves. So once I did the test, or the kids did the test, it was graded and the results were tabulated, and then those tabulated results were used to indicate to me which kids needed help with which areas of the curriculum, and that really enabled me and the kids to get the most out of the unit. AITSL Standard 3.4 select and use resources states for the graduate criteria that we need to be able to demonstrate knowledge of a range of resources, including ICT, that engage students in their learning. For this standard, the example I've chosen is a series of literacy classes that I did with my grade 5-6 placement class. What we did is we were learning about explanation texts. So together on the board, we watched a video about how tsunamis work, a YouTube video. So we watched that all together. Then as a class, we watched the video again. This time I paused the video at certain intervals and asked the kids to pinpoint the main points from that section that they thought needed to go into our explanation text. So that was the first part of the introduction to the small unit we were doing. From there, the children were given 2 choices or 2 topics to choose from related to their literacy levels that they would then research and also do their own explanation text on. So the students chose their topic, and then in pairs they went off and used the desktop computers, the laptops that the classrooms have, as well as some iPads to do their research and start their own note-taking. The next lesson, which I think was the next day, we came in and using the notes that the children had come up with from watching the video previously, together as a class and using butcher's paper, we used those notes to create our own explanation text together. So using the suggestions from the children, we together as a class put them together and made an explanation text. The children then went off and continued their own research that they were doing, research in pairs, with their own notes and their own individual explanation texts. This relates back to my own standard and my own philosophy, in that students really, the need for note-taking is actually quite important. The kids will need to know how to do this for their further schooling and going through university, and if they end up in a corporate world, they're going to need to know how to take notes in a meeting for meeting minutes and things like that. So the use of, seeing myself modelling the note-taking for them and how to then translate that into a document has given the kids the chance to utilise those skills that I modelled earlier on the board for them. So AITSL Standard 5.4 Interpret Student Data is my next standard, and the graduate criteria for this standard state that as a graduate teacher we need to be able to demonstrate the capacity to interpret student assessment data, to evaluate student learning and modify teaching practice. So the example that I'm using for this standard relates back to the first example I used of my unit of time that I was teaching to my 5-6 class. And the example that I'm using is the tabulated results from the pretest and how I use those results to cater the kids' work to their needs. So this, again, sorry, it's backwards, is the tabulated results. And you can see there that the red sections really highlight the areas of need for each child. So using this, these tabulated results, I administered the test for the kids. They did it. I came home, corrected the results, popped them into the tally, and then I was able to come back to that results table and the data that I had there, was able to come back to that numerous times over the course of the unit, and was able to use that to group the kids according to their abilities and to do the work based on that. So, the kids that were really struggling with the simplest of things, drawing hands on a clock and reading an analog clock, weren't given the same work as the kids who could easily convert 24 and 12-hour time between each other and could easily tell, the difference between time zones and things like that. I think that is really important to be able to do that, and the success of that was shown to me in the results of the post-test. 20 out of 29 kids in my class improved their results from the pre-test through being able to have their work catered to their needs and the things that they needed to learn. So doing this involved me doing a lot of explicit teaching with the kids that needed help in those particular areas, but I also made sure that I did some explicit teaching and some small group work with the kids who were really successful and were high academic achievers, so that the kids who were low didn't just see me working with them and think, oh, I'm too stupid, I can't do this, but also gave the kids who were academically advanced a little bit more time with me personally and a chance for us to work through some things together, because some of the stuff was even hard for me. This really relates back to my stance in that it's really important for kids to be able to do their own level of work and making sure that everyone is challenged in their own way and that everyone learns differently and that that's fine.